Right, people, the Thomas Frank era is here. Spurs have officially confirmed the appointment and announced the appointment of Thomas Frank. There's already been some Thomas Frank content on the channel already. I spoke in a video the other day about how Spurs might set up under him. The response to that video and the reaction to it has been amazing. 22,000 views on that. Please do go and watch that if you haven't already to get an idea of how Spurs might play under Thomas Frank. But in this video, we're going to be reacting to the announcement, what it means, who he's bringing with him. And if you are excited like me, please do make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. There's going to be plenty more content on Thomas Frank coming before pre-season starts. Don't you worry about that. I've already recorded, and it's going to be out tomorrow, a keep, loan, sell audit of the current squad with Seb. That's coming out tomorrow based on what Thomas Frank might feel, which players suit the system, which profiles suit the system, etc. Who's he going to like? Who might we look to loan out? There's also going to be plenty more videos coming. If there's specific videos that you do want to see on Frank joining, please do let me know in the comments, and I will try my very best to make it happen. So please give me any suggestions, whether it's signings, anything like that. Let me know in the comments, and make sure to like and subscribe, of course. Statement then. Let's get straight into it. We are delighted to announce the appointment of Thomas Frank as our new head coach on a contract that runs till 2028. So that is a 3-year contract. Let me just zoom that in for you. On his contract that runs till 2028. Thomas has the extensive experience in English football, having joined Brentford in 2016, since becoming one of the longest-serving current managers in the Premier League. I think Thomas Frank is the second longest-serving manager in the Premier League behind Pep Guardiola. During his time at Brentford, he transformed the club, moving them up from the Championship to an established Premier League side, consistently and significantly outperforming expectations for an extended period of time. What he has done at Brentford should not go unnoticed. The guy has taken the club from... He's changed the club kind of from bottom to top, really, and made them a well-established Premier League side. This isn't a side that's been keeping their head above water in terms of relegation year after year. What he has done has to be commended and really respected from a tactical point of view, but also about the culture and environment that he has cultivated at Brentford. And that is, that's going to be a big miss for them. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens to Brentford off the back of this. And I wish them all the best generally, because I really like and admire what they've done as a club. But we're not here to talk about them. We're here to talk about Tottenham. In Thomas, we are appointing one of the most progressive and innovative head coaches within the game. He has a proven track record in player and squad development, and we look forward to him leading the team as we prepare for the season ahead. Now, this is more so than the overperformance with Frank at Brentford, because he has massively overperformed, and that is testament to his quality as a coach to then go on to what we speak about here in terms of improving those players. Those things go hand in hand. That is the reason why he has overperformed for so long. But that specifically is 100% a reason why we should have been looking to bring him in. You look at that attack and you look at those players generally at Brentford, but that attack specifically, if we go to Brentford's team here. Oh, England 21's winning. Archie Gray with a goal. It's just gone in. We'll check back on that in a sec. Brentford, Harvey Elliott with a goal. Brentford's team last season. You look at where these players came from. And Bowman came from Troy. Wissa came from, where was it? Angers, Lorient. These are French second division teams. Damsgaard obviously a little bit more well known, but Norgard, all these other players that he's kind of picked up and turned into absolute monsters in the Premier League in terms of goals and assists. And that is something that really, really excites me when I look at that squad, because as much as this video isn't being made, and I don't want to talk about Ange Postecoglou in any negative light whatsoever, because we have to be respectful and appreciative of what he's done for us. But I think it's fair to say that there are a few players in that squad, a lot of players in that squad that didn't play their best football necessarily under him. And I think there's a few gems in there really waiting to be refined and polished under Thomas Frank and improved upon as well. There is a lot of quality in that squad, and there's quality that needs to be added 100%. But when you look at his player and squad development, like Spurs have said in this statement, I really am excited about some of the players that he can get his hands on and improve. I'm looking at James Maddison in that 10 position, and not that Maddison necessarily needs improving as a player, necessarily, but platforming him and profiling him correctly as that number 10 if Spurs were to play in that 4-2-3-1 system that Brentford did play a lot last season. And again, I'll go back to this video and encourage you to watch it to learn about maybe what we can expect from how someone like a Maddison might play. Matisse Tell that Bayern have come out and confirmed that Spurs are still talking to them about how can he improve under Thomas Frank, and I think that's a signing that should be made, in my opinion, when you look at how Brentford use their wingers, maybe more as inside forwards, certainly on that left-hand side, someone that's comfortable attacking in space, coming into central areas, getting shots off, getting facing the goal. I feel like there are players here that have got so much promise and potential. And like I said, this squad right now is not a top 4 squad. It's not. I don't think it is. And I'm not necessarily saying that should be the aim for next season. But what my point is that I think there's a lot of players that are ready to kind of be sharpened and ready to be improved, sitting there waiting that Thomas Frank is going to look at that with really excited, open, wide eyes. And Justin Cochran as well, who's joined him as first team assistant coach, who's had a lot of hand in improving some of these Brentford attackers as well. I've seen plenty of videos of training drills where he's kind of taking the lead, encouraging players to attack that box. I'm looking at Brennan Johnson. How can he improve overall as a player, as well as that goal scoring ability, into next season? It's really exciting, and I'm excited to. And again, I don't want to get tactical that much in this video, but I'm excited to have that structure. I'm excited to have a midfield pivot that is solid, and then attackers in front of that are ready to go and attack. Having a manager that is flexible, that is pragmatic when he needs to be, that is first and foremost. Thomas Frank did an interview. There's so much great Thomas Frank content out to go and gorge on, and now we can do that even more. Now he's ours without the fear of it maybe falling through. Which it was never going to do. I think the discussions and the delay was kind of just over which coaching staff would come with Frank. But he spoke in an interview that he did for Football Focus with Gary Lineker. We went round to his house, and Gary Lineker made him some lovely fish, actually. I recommend you go and watch it. And Frank was talking about the fact that my identity and philosophy as a coach, I want to play attacking football. I haven't necessarily been able to do that all the time at Brentford because of the limitations in place in terms of budgets or wanting to survive first in the Premier League to build that platform. But this is a guy that also finished 10th in his first season in the Prem or 9th, I think it was maybe, to then allow them to go and build that platform where the following year they finished, I think, 2 points off of European football behind us. Obviously they had issues the season just before last with injuries, etc., where they finished, I think, 16th, and it didn't quite go as how they planned. But look at how they've bounced back this season, and look at how he's adapted and moved that team forward. And you've seen a much more aggressive manager or an aggressive tactical setup that has allowed them to become a team that went 1-0 up in, in the first minute in like 3 or 4 games in a row, had that amazing home record in the first half of the season, were blitzing teams, and Brentford really kind of coloured the story of the season, I think, in the Premier League. With, you think about the little subplots of Bowman and Viscera, the Barclays men coming back, the G-Tech itself being the place to go in terms of goals and entertaining football, and you never quite knew what was going to happen. So I'm really excited. I'm really excited, and I think that proven track record in developing and improving players, and the overperformance on expectations, and that's the thing that I think will naturally, that sentence will ring alarm bells a little bit with some Spurs fans and go, well, and I've said this as well, Levy's going to love that because it's like, how high are the expectations? And we'll talk about that towards the end of the video. What should we be expecting of Frank next season? But you can't deny it. That you can separate the anxiety about maybe Levy looking at that and thinking this is a guy that has overperformed, and we want to kind of put him in the job because of that, because it takes the pressure off of us a little bit, maybe, or it's not any kind of improvement on last season is a plus for us. And look, we need to be able to re-establish ourselves and find that stability and go again and kick on in the league next season 100%. But there will be pressure on Frank, obviously, because of what Ange Postecoglou did achieve. But I'll kind of come back to that in a minute. So Thomas will be joined from Brentford by Justin Cochran, first-team assistant coach, Chris Haslam, head of performance and first-team assistant coach, Joe Newton, first-team coach analyst, and Andreas Georgeson, first-team assistant coach, arriving from Manchester United. And that is the end of the statement. I'm just going to check and see if Spurs have put anything else out there that we can kind of speak about. Thomas Frank's journey to Spurs, a bit more of an insight into his career. 2008 to 2013, he was a manager of the Danish under-16, under-17 and under-19 teams. Brentford don't actually have an academy anymore, so again, people will look at that and think, what's his record like in terms of developing young players? But he was a talent, what was the word that he described it in the Gary Lineker piece? Essentially, he was a youth team coach and a talent development manager for like 20 years of his career before he actually got into management. And that obviously started with the Danish youth teams, again, proving a track record for developing youth. And again, that is an indicator. And this is why I said in a video I made on TikTok the other day, talking about how this isn't ripping up and starting a project again. This is a continuation of a project. Frank is the next guy after Ange, and I think he's a really good guy to take over from him. And again, Spurs are not going to move away from signing young players. As much as we all know we need to add proven experience and quality to the squad, you also need a manager that is proven in terms of developing younger talents as well, because Spurs aren't going to stop buying your Bergvals, buying your Vuskovics, and I don't think they should either. I think we should maybe think differently about how we develop those players and add proven quality on top of that, maybe use the loan market a little bit more. Maybe you find some sort of connection with a feeder club where you can send these players a bit like Chelsea do with Strasbourg, etc., to develop, to avoid having a bloated squad and blocking pathways, but allowing these players to go and play first-team football. But I'm excited for Frank to get his hands on the likes of Moore, Williams, Barnett, even Odebear, young players, so we'll see. And then he went to Brøndby as a manager from 2013 to 2016. He then took the assistant manager job at Brentford and has been the Brentford manager from 2018 to 2025. His Brentford team in the Championship, certainly in the couple of years, they got to the playoff finals, one where they lost and one where they went up. Obviously, the year after, they were playing really aggressive, total football, attacking football. They knew they could beat most teams in that division. They had some really good attacking talent: Mope, Watkins, Ben Rama, obviously, and Buemo, other players as well that were with them in the Championship. And super exciting appointment for me, in my opinion. And there's going to be more videos coming. To kind of, let's just see if there's been any kind of thing else said. Not yet. Tottenham Hotspur did complete. This was broken from David Ornstein earlier. Thomas Frank to complete Tottenham appointment. Vice versa. I'm just excited. After agreement was struck to take Justin Cochrane as an assistant, deal held up over talks over the 43-year-old who Brentford wanted as their manager. Very, very good appointment. He has previous at Spurs as well. Justin Cochrane, he was with us. He was with Manchester United. He was with England under 17s as well, and is regarded. I think there was an article earlier that regarded him as a world-class operator. Let me just see if I can find that quote. Some more bits here. Signs 3-year contract. 13th permanent manager to work under Daniel Levy. And again, I've been very critical of the board, but I do think they've got this appointment right and made a tough decision to sack Ange. But I think they've done it for the betterment of the football club. I think, in my opinion, first fixture is against PSG in the Super Cup. Obviously, we've got Arsenal in pre-season as well. We've got Bayern Munich in pre-season. I'm sure there's a couple of other games that maybe haven't been confirmed yet, but yeah, Justin Cochrane will be. There was a quote. Where was the? Let me see if I can find the quote and the context of it. I'm sure I saw a quote calling him world class. People within Brentford state Justin Cochrane's coaching on the pitch is world class, and again, we'll just kind of believe that when we see it, but it's still incredibly exciting. I really, really like it. What are the expectations for Thomas Frank next season? Look, that could be a whole video in itself, and I think I will do that. But just to quickly talk about it, look, people are going to be expecting a trophy, I think, or now we've got the taste for it. I think some people are rightly sceptical of the fact that is this an appointment to get us back to top 6 and decent run in the Champions League to maximise the revenue potentially, but also you can't. I'm not saying Spurs won the Europa League on a whim, but if you want to be a club that does challenge for the major things on a regular basis, like Tottenham 100% should be, then I think you need to have a manager that has that stable foundation to be able to continuously get results in the league. And I think obviously you're going to look at a manager that's finished like 10th, 9th and 16th and say, well, he's never managed in Europe. He's never even got his team into Europe. And that is a fair critique and fair kind of sceptical look at it, 100%. What pedigree has he got to suggest that he will get us that far in the Champions League or will get us back into Europe, because he's not done it. But again, he's going to Tottenham, a club with more resources. Hopefully they do use that and back him. And I would have said the same thing about Postecoglou as well. I would have been happy for Postecoglou to stay, and the key thing was backing them. And it's going to be very interesting to see who they go after. Frank, expectations for me, I don't necessarily expect him to win a trophy. I expect more stability and a push for European spaces in the league. I expect us to challenge in the Cups, 100%. And that is something, again, that Frank has he's always spoken about the fact that he wasn't in favour of FA Cup replays and all this kind of stuff. He's never really taken the Cups too seriously. But again, when you think about the resources that he had available to him at Brentford, he didn't necessarily have the ability to do that. Spurs have got a bigger squad with more quality. And again, if he can improve those players to form a more stable base in the league, improve the whole squad to a point where we're not having to make massive changes or changes that are massively going to negatively affect us if we do decide to rotate in the Cups or in the Champions League, which is why we do require more squad building, 100% to go alongside that. He can't do it all on his own with his coaching. But I would expect him to get back into Europe. I think that's a fair expectation. Am I going to say sack him next year if he doesn't do that? Absolutely not. Obviously, his position will have to become under reviewed if we are massively, massively underperforming. But I think you've got to give this guy time to build on what we've already done. Use that Europa League as a platform. Use it as a springboard to kick on. It's going to be very interesting to see how he gets on in Europe, having never managed in the Champions League. But again, he'd also never managed in the Premier League, and look what he did. That's a massive step up from the Championship to the Premier League. Pochettino had never managed in the Champions League and took us to a final, or managed in Europe for that matter before he took over the Spurs job. So those are all things to speak about once we're in, and once we actually see him managing the Champions League and see him managing the Premier League for Spurs. But expectations-wise, I do expect Spurs to be back amongst the European places. I will expect us to prioritise the cups and go for it. And hopefully those players have got that taste for silverware. But yeah. And like I said, I know people would be put off by this. I know there was that piece or a tweet that was going around from one ITK journalist that was saying his expectations are going to be top 4 in round of 16 in the Champions League, and a lot of people were annoyed at that because we've come off the back of winning the trophy. People talking about the games about glory, etc. I 100% understand the frustrations around that, but also what I would say is you're more likely to continuously challenge for the big honours on a regular basis if you have a manager that is able to find that stable base in the league and win more games of football. And winning games of football, which Thomas Frank I think will do at Tottenham, is something that will immediately get the fans on side and build that connection back. That is the most important currency, is winning those games. As we found out with Ange in those first 10 games, Frank really struggled when he first went to Brentford, but I think it's different stepping up from Brentford to Tottenham, even though it's a massive step. He's a comfortable, confident Premier League manager that has got, when did they come up, 2021? Has got 4 or 5 seasons now of a CV behind him to say, I can do it at this level. And if there's early pressure, then I think he'll ride through that quite well. I do think he'll ride through that quite well. He's confident, he's calm, he backs himself, and we've got to back him as well. No wet in the bed if we don't win the first 3 games or something. I get that expectations are going to be high and people are going to say, we sacked a manager that won a trophy for this. But, I think we've just got to go into the season excited but calm. I'm excited. Look, I am excited. I'm excited for the season to start. I'm excited for that first interview. The dopamine is running through me right now, and I want you guys to let me know how you feel in the comments. There's going to be much more content coming. Keep low and sell tomorrow. There's going to be another video on Saturday as well where I talk about Thomas Frank, kind of the man, and the manager behind the tactics almost, and what he can bring to Tottenham as well. So that's coming. And please do let me know any suggestions or any content. I've got some good ideas cooking up for you. So yeah, make sure to subscribe and like the video if you're excited for the appointment of Thomas Frank. And I'll see you very soon. Up the Spurs.